A giant space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most cities on Earth. Thousands of lights blinked on its surface like stars. Ships from dozens of different worlds were docked to it. Today was not a normal day. Today, the leaders of the galaxy were meeting to talk about a problem. The problem was humanity. Jake Morrison walked through the long hallways of the station. He was 50 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been Earth's main diplomat for 10 years. Behind him walked Lisa Grant and Tony Rivera. Lisa was a smart woman who knew about alien cultures. Tony was a military man who tried to look calm, but his hand stayed near his weapon. The three humans were the only ones of their kind on the station today. Everyone else was alien. As they walked, strange creatures watched them from doorways and windows. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. Some were covered in fur or scales. Others looked like they were made of metal or gas. They all looked angry. Tony whispered to Jake. "They should be scared instead," Lisa said quietly. Jake said nothing. He had learned long ago that words were dangerous in places like this. The wrong word could start a war. The right word could end one. Today, he was not sure which kind of words he would need. They reached the main meeting hall. It was huge. The ceiling was so high that clouds could form up there. In the center was a round table that could seat 1,000 beings. Around the table sat the most powerful creatures in the galaxy. The Zilithian Chancellor sat at the head of the table. He looked like a giant crystal that had learned to walk. His body was clear, and light seemed to dance inside him. When he spoke, his voice sounded like music made of ice. Next to him sat the Hive Queen Zakta. She looked like a praying mantis, but was as big as a horse. Her 4 arms moved constantly, and her black eyes never blinked. On the other side sat the Drakmor Emperor. He was in his war form today, which meant he looked like a dragon made of living metal. His claws could cut through steel, and his breath could melt rock. The ethereals floated nearby like purple clouds with eyes. They had no solid bodies, but everyone knew they were the smartest race in the galaxy. There were dozens of other alien leaders around the table. The bone speakers from the dead worlds. The hive minds who shared one brain across millions of bodies. The star whales who lived in the void between planets. All of them were here for one reason. Humanity had become too successful. Jake and his team took their seats. The table was so big that they looked like children sitting at a dinner table made for giants. The aliens around them made sounds, clicks, hums, roars, and other noises that humans could not make. Some of it was talking. Some of it was just fear. The Chancellor stood up. When he moved, he made sounds like wind chimes. "We call this meeting to order," he said. His voice filled the huge room. "We are here to discuss the human problem." Jake felt Tony tense beside him. Lisa put her hand on a small device in her pocket. Jake himself stayed perfectly still. He had known this day would come. Humanity had grown too fast and too strong. The aliens were scared. For 200 years. The Chancellor continued, "Humans have spread across our galaxy like a disease. They take worlds that other races cannot live on. They make them green and full of life. They build cities and farms and factories. They have children faster than any other race. They learn our languages and our science. They copy our technology and make it better." The Hive Queen made a sound like breaking glass. "They are dangerous," she said. "They do not think like us. They do not follow rules. They make war on each other, but then work together against outsiders. We cannot predict them." The Drakmor Emperor's eyes glowed red. "They are weak in body, but strong in mind. They cannot breathe our air or eat our food, but they change whole worlds to suit them. They are like a virus that spreads and grows. One of the ethereals floated forward. When it spoke, its voice was like wind through leaves. We have studied them for generations. They are unique in the galaxy. Most races find one type of world and stay there. Humans take any world and make it theirs. They are adaptation made flesh. Jake listened to it all. He had heard these complaints before. Humanity was too fast, too smart, too flexible. They built things other races could not build. They solved problems other races could not solve. They thrived in places other races could not survive. The Chancellor raised one crystal arm. The room fell silent. "We have made a decision," he said. "Humanity must be controlled before it is too late. We give them 3 choices." Jake leaned forward. Here it came. "First," the Chancellor said, "humans must stop making new colonies. No more taking of worlds. No more spreading across the galaxy. Second," the Hive Queen added, "humans must limit their population. No more than 1 billion humans may exist at any time. The rest must be ... removed." Jake's jaw tightened. Lisa made a small sound of anger. Tony's hand moved closer to his weapon. "Third," the Drakmor Emperor rumbled, "humans must give us their terraforming technology. The secrets of how they change dead worlds into living ones. This technology is too dangerous for one race to control." The Chancellor's light grew brighter. "If humans do not agree to these terms, the Galactic Federation will take action. We have ships. We have weapons. We have the support of every major race in the galaxy. Humanity will comply, or humanity will be destroyed." The room was perfectly quiet. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. He could feel the weight of 400 billion human lives on his shoulders. Everyone was watching him, waiting for his answer. Jake stood up slowly. He looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Some looked hungry, like they wanted to see what would happen next. "I need to talk to Earth," Jake said simply. The Chancellor nodded. "You have 6 hours to decide. After that, we will assume your answer is no." Jake turned and walked toward the door. Lisa and Tony followed him. Behind them, the aliens began to make their sounds again. Some were happy sounds. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. Jake Morrison sat in the small room the aliens had given him. It was meant for humans, so the air was right and the gravity felt normal. But the walls were made of some alien metal that felt cold to touch. Lisa sat at a small table working on her computer. Tony stood by the door, watching for anyone who might be listening. Jake pressed a button on the communication device. The machine hummed to life and created a connection that traveled faster than light across the galaxy. In seconds, he was talking to Earth, 30,000 light-years away. The screen showed the face of President Amy Collins. She was a tough woman in her 60s who had led Earth through many hard times. Her gray hair was pulled back and her blue eyes were sharp and alert. Behind her, Jake could see other important people gathering. "Jake," the president said, "we've been waiting for your call. How bad is it?" "As bad as we expected," Jake replied. "They want us to stop expanding. They want to control our population. And they want our terraforming secrets." The president nodded grimly. "And if we say no, they'll try to destroy us." More people appeared on the screen. Defense Secretary Greg Thompson was a big man who had been a soldier before becoming a politician. His face was serious as he listened. Chief of Staff Helen Cruz stood next to him, taking notes on a tablet. "How many ships do they have?" Greg asked. "Thousands," Jake said. "Maybe tens of thousands. Every major race has sent warships to the outer systems. They've been planning this for months." Helen looked up from her tablet. "Do they know about the fortress worlds?" Jake shook his head. "I don't think so. They still think we're just farmers and merchants scattered across their territory. President Collins leaned forward. Jake, I'm going to connect you to some other people. Stay on the line. The screen split into multiple windows. Jake saw faces he recognized from secret meetings over the years. Admiral Paul Grant commanded Earth's hidden fleet. Dr. Linda Foster ran the secret research stations. General Beth Parker was in charge of the military colonies that the aliens thought were just mining operations. Gentlemen, ladies, the President sighed. Operation Exodus may be starting earlier than we planned. Admiral Grant spoke first. His weathered face showed no emotion, but Jake knew him well enough to see the excitement in his eyes. The fleet is ready, Madam President. All ships are fueled and armed. We can begin movement in 12 hours. Dr. Foster nodded. The research stations have been preparing for evacuation for 2 years. All critical data has been copied and stored. We can destroy what's left behind in minutes. General Parker looked grim. The colony worlds are the problem. We have 400 million civilians to evacuate. Even with all our ships, it will take weeks. Lisa looked up from her computer. We might not have weeks. The aliens are already moving ships into position around our major colonies. They're not taking any chances. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. For 50 years, ever since first contact with alien races, humanity had been preparing for this day. They knew that other races would eventually see them as a threat. Humans were too different, too adaptable, too successful. So Earth had made secret plans. Instead of fighting the aliens directly, they would leave, but not quietly and not empty-handed. Tony, Jake said to his military aide, show them what you found. Tony connected his own device to the communication system. New images appeared on the screen. They showed alien documents and recordings. We've been monitoring their communications for months, Tony explained. They're not just planning to control us. 3 different alien races have been working on biological weapons designed to kill humans. The Zilithians have a virus that targets human DNA. The Hive Queen has been breeding parasites that can control human minds. The Drakmor have developed a gas that is harmless to aliens, but deadly to human lungs. The room on Earth went quiet. President Collins's face went pale. They were planning genocide. Yes, Jake said. This ultimatum is just for show. They've already decided to get rid of us. The only question is whether they do it slowly through population control or quickly through warfare. Admiral Grant's voice was cold as ice. Then we make them regret that decision. Dr. Foster pulled up her own files. I have some good news. The new quantum communication system is working perfectly. Every human colony, ship, and station in the galaxy can receive our signal instantly. When we give the word, everyone will know at the same time. General Parker smiled for the first time in the conversation. The aliens think our colonies are separate and weak. They don't know that we've been coordinating for decades. Every human settlement has escape plans, hidden weapons, and emergency supplies. Lisa added more information. Our intelligence network is better than they realize. We have humans working in alien governments, alien companies, and alien military forces. We know their fleet positions, their supply lines, and their weaknesses. President Collins looked around at all the faces on the screen. Are we really going to do this? Leave the galaxy entirely? Jake nodded. We don't have a choice. They'll never let us exist as equals. To them, we're either slaves or enemies. There's no middle ground. The Andromeda Galaxy is only 2.5 million light-years away, Admiral Grant added. Our long-range scouts have already found suitable systems there. No intelligent life, plenty of worlds we can terraform. We can build a new civilization without interference. Defense Secretary Thompson spoke up. What about the humans who want to stay? Some people have lived on alien worlds their whole lives. Some are married to aliens or have alien friends. Jake had thought about this too. We'll take anyone who wants to come, but no one stays behind. The aliens have made it clear that there's no future for humans in this galaxy. Tony checked his watch. We have 4 hours left before the deadline. President Collins made her decision. All right, Jake, you know what to do. Tell the aliens our answer. Everyone else, begin Operation Exodus immediately. The screens went dark one by one as the leaders signed off to begin their preparations. Soon, only Jake, Lisa, and Tony were left in the small room. Lisa closed her computer. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Jake stood up and straightened his jacket. The right thing would have been for them to treat us as equals. But they chose fear instead of friendship. Now they get to live with the consequences. Tony opened the door. The aliens are waiting for us in the main hall. Jake took a deep breath. In a few minutes, he would walk back into that room full of creatures who wanted to destroy his species. He would look them in the eye and tell them that humanity would not bow down, and then the real show would begin. The meeting hall was even more crowded when Jake returned. Word had spread across the galaxy that humanity was about to give their answer. Alien leaders who had joined by hologram before were now here in person. The air was thick with excitement, and the strange smells of dozens of different species. Jake walked slowly to his seat. Every eye, sensor, and optical organ in the room followed him. Lisa and Tony stayed close behind him. The three humans looked small and outnumbered in the vast space, filled with powerful alien beings. The Zilithian, Chancellor's crystal body glowed, brighter as Jake approached. The Hive Queen's 4 arms clicked together in a rhythm that sounded like applause. The Drakmor Emperor's metal scales shifted and made scraping sounds. Even the normally quiet ethereals pulsed with visible energy. Ambassador Morrison, the Chancellor said, his musical voice filling the room. Have you reached a decision? Jake remained standing instead of taking his seat. This surprised the aliens. In their culture, standing during a formal meeting meant you were preparing for combat or making a challenge. I have spoken with Earth, Jake said simply. His voice was calm and clear, but it carried to every corner of the huge room. The Chancellor leaned forward. And what is humanity's answer to our generous terms? Jake looked around the room slowly. He saw faces filled with anticipation. The aliens expected him to accept their demands or beg for better terms. They thought they held all the power. The United Earth Government, Jake said, and all human colonies reject your ultimatum completely. A sound like thunder filled the room as hundreds of aliens reacted at once. The Hive Queen's screech was so loud that the humans' ears hurt. The Drakmor Emperor roared, and his breath made the air shimmer with heat. Smaller aliens chittered, howled, and made sounds that had no human equivalent. The Chancellor raised his arms for silence. You reject our terms? Do you understand what this means? Yes, Jake said. It means humanity chooses freedom over slavery. The room erupted again. This time the aliens sounded angry instead of surprised. Many of them stood up and began shouting in their own languages. Jake caught words he recognized. Destroy, eliminate, remove the threat. But Jake was not finished speaking. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple communicator, but the aliens did not know what it really was. However, Jake said, and his voice somehow cut through all the noise. Before we leave, we have an announcement to make. The Chancellor's eyes widened. In his crystal face, Jake could see confusion. Leave? What do you mean, leave? Jake pressed a button on the device. Immediately, every screen in the room lit up with the same image. It showed the human symbol, a simple blue planet with a single moon. This is Ambassador Jake Morrison, Jake said into the device. Operation Exodus is now active. All human citizens, ships, and installations are to begin immediate evacuation procedures. Destination protocols are in effect. All units report to designated rally points within 72 hours. The aliens stared at the screens in shock. They did not understand what they were seeing at first. Then reports began coming in from across the galaxy as a Lithian admiral's voice crackled over the communication system. Chancellor, the human colony on Kepler 442b is powering up massive ships. They appear to be ... leaving. Another voice, this one from a Drakmor commander. Emperor, the human mining operation in the Vega system has just destroyed their equipment and launched evacuation shuttles. More reports flooded in. On world after world, system after system, humans were moving, not running in panic, but moving with purpose and coordination. Ships that had been hidden or disguised as cargo vessels suddenly revealed themselves as evacuation transports. Colonies that seemed defenseless suddenly showed they had been preparing for this day for years. The Hive Queen turned her black eyes on Jake. What are you doing? You cannot simply leave. You have contracts, agreements, responsibilities. Jake smiled for the first time since entering the room. Those contracts were with the Galactic Federation. As of 5 minutes ago, humanity is no longer a member of the Federation. The Chancellor's crystal body flickered with shocked light. You cannot withdraw from the Federation. No race has ever left voluntarily. Then we are the first, Jake said. More. Reports came in. The aliens watched their screens in growing horror as they realized the scope of what was happening. Humans were not just leaving a few worlds. They were leaving everywhere, all at once. Impossible, growled the Drakmor Emperor. Our intelligence reports show humans scattered across thousands of worlds. You cannot coordinate something like this without us knowing. Tony stepped forward. You knew what we wanted you to know. Every human trader who visited your worlds was also gathering intelligence. Every human diplomat was also a spy. Every human colony was also a listening post. We have been watching and learning from you for 200 years. The ethereals pulsed with what looked like panic. The economic disruption will be catastrophic. Human trade routes handle 30% of galactic commerce. Human agriculture feeds entire sectors. Human technology maintains critical infrastructure across dozens of systems. Lisa opened her computer and connected it to the room's display. System. New images appeared on the screens. They showed cargo ships leaving human space, factories shutting down, and communication networks going dark. You should have thought about that before threatening us, Lisa said. Did you really think we would build our entire civilization around your economy without having a way out? The aliens began arguing among themselves. Some wanted to use force to stop the humans from leaving. Others realized it was already too late. The evacuation was happening too fast and across too wide. An area to stop. Admiral Paul Grant's face appeared on the main screen. He was broadcasting from somewhere in deep space. Behind him, Jake could see the bridge of a warship that looked far more advanced than anything the aliens had in their fleets. This is Admiral Grant of the United Earth Space Force, he said. Any attempt to interfere with human evacuation will be considered an act of war. We are leaving peacefully, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. The Drakmor Emperor's eyes glowed with rage. Space Force? You told us you had no military fleet. Jake shrugged. You never asked the right questions. You assumed. We were weak because we avoided fights. You thought we were scattered because we lived on many worlds. You believed we were dependent because we traded with you. All of those assumptions were wrong. The Chancellor tried to regain control of the situation. Even if you leave, where will you go? This galaxy is our home. There is nowhere else for you to run. Jake picked up his device again. Another image appeared on the screens. It showed a star map, but not of the Milky Way galaxy. It showed a different galaxy entirely, with routes marked between star systems. The Andromeda Galaxy. Jake said, 2.5 million light-years away. Our long-range scout ships have been exploring it for 50 years. We have found thousands of suitable worlds with no intelligent life to disturb. We will build our own civilization there, free from your interference. The room fell completely silent. The aliens stared at the star map in disbelief. The idea of traveling to another galaxy was beyond what most of them thought possible. The technology for intergalactic travel ... whispered one of the ethereals. Was developed by humans 30 years ago, Jake finished. Another little secret we kept from you. Jake walked toward the door. Lisa and Tony followed him. Behind them, the aliens sat in stunned silence. Finally understanding what they had lost at the door, Jake turned back one last time. You wanted to control us because you were afraid of what we might become. Now you will find out what the galaxy looks like without us. The three humans left the room. Behind them, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat and watched their civilization begin to crumble. Captain Dan Murphy stood on the bridge of the UE's horizon and watched his crew work with quiet efficiency. The ship was not large by military standards, but it was fast and well armed. More importantly, it had been disguised as a simple exploration vessel for the past 10 years. The aliens had no idea what it really was. Captain, called out Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the navigation station. We're approaching Kepler 442b. The colony is ready for evacuation. Dan nodded and activated the ship's communication system. Colony base, this is Captain Murphy. We are beginning Operation Exodus. How many people do you need to evacuate? The voice that answered belonged to Administrator Kate Williams. She had been running the colony for 8 years and had always known this day might come. Captain, we have 12,000 civilians ready to go. All essential equipment has been packed. Non-essential infrastructure is rigged for destruction. Dan looked at his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Ray Chun. How long do we have? Alien patrol ships will be here in 6 hours, Ray replied. But they're still flying in formation. Like they're going to a parade. They have no idea we're already here. Through the main viewing screen, Dan could see the planet below. Kepler 442b had been a dead rock when humans first arrived. Now it was green with forests and blue with oceans. Human terraforming technology had turned it into a paradise in just 50 years. It's a shame to leave it, said Dr. Janet Ross, the ship's science officer. We put so much work into making it livable. The aliens can have the planet, Dan replied, but they'll never figure out how we did it. All our terraforming equipment is designed to self-destruct when we leave. On the other side of the galaxy, engineer Rick Santos was overseeing a similar operation on the industrial world of Forge. The planet was covered with factories that produced everything from computer chips to starship engines. Human workers moved quickly to pack up the most valuable equipment while preparing to destroy the rest. Rick called his assistant, Maria Lopez. The alien trade delegation is asking why we're shutting down the factories. They want to know if this is some kind of strike. Rick smiled grimly. Tell them it's permanent. They'll figure out the rest soon enough. Maria shook her head as she looked at the massive industrial complex around them. 200 years of work, and we're just going to blow it up. Better than leaving it for them to use, Rick said. Besides, we can build new factories in Andromeda, better ones. The real shock for the aliens came when they discovered the true extent of human intelligence operations. Dr. Linda Foster had been running what appeared to be a simple research station in the Wolf 359 system. In reality, It was the center of the largest spy network in galactic history. "Begin transmission," Linda said to her staff. Around her, dozens of humans worked at computers and communication equipment. All agents, all assets, all sleeper operatives. Activate and extract immediately. Across the galaxy, humans who had been living and working among alien populations for decades suddenly revealed themselves. They had been teachers, doctors, engineers, and scientists. They had married aliens, raised families, and become trusted members of their communities. But they had also been watching, learning, and reporting back to Earth. On the Zilithian homeworld, Dr. Bob Parker had been studying alien crystal biology for 20 years. His Zilithian colleagues trusted him completely. They had no idea he had been secretly copying all their research and sending it back to human scientists. "I'm sorry," Bob said to his Zilithian research partner as he packed his equipment. "I genuinely enjoyed working with you, but my people come first. The Zilithians." Crystal body flickered with confusion. "But Bob, you are our friend. We have worked together for decades. We shared our knowledge with you." "And I shared mine with you," Bob replied. "But that was before your government decided to try to destroy my species." Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Human agents who had spent their entire adult lives among aliens suddenly packed up and left. They took with them detailed knowledge of alien technology, military capabilities, and weaknesses. The biggest surprise came when Commander Steve Collins revealed the hidden military base in the Veil Nebula. For 40 years, the aliens had thought the nebula was empty space, too dangerous for ships to enter. They were wrong. "All units, this is Nebula Base," Steve announced on an open channel that every alien fleet could hear. "The veil is lifting. Prepare to be amazed." Hundreds of human warships suddenly appeared on alien sensors. They had been hiding in the nebula, using technology that made them invisible to alien detection systems. The ships were sleek and deadly, clearly designed for combat. "Impossible," gasped a Drakmor admiral when he saw the readings. "Those ships are more advanced than anything in our fleet. How did they build so many without us knowing?" demanded a Hive Queen commander. The answer came from Admiral Paul Grant, broadcasting from the flagship of the Hidden Fleet. "You knew what we wanted you to know. Every time you visited our colonies, you saw farmers and miners and merchants. You never saw the military shipyards we built in asteroid fields and hidden moons. You never detected the weapon testing we did in empty star systems. You assumed we were weak because we never showed you our strength." The aliens began to realize they had been completely fooled. The scattered, peaceful human colonies were actually parts of a vast military network. The humans who seemed to depend on alien trade and technology had actually been studying their hosts and preparing for independence. But the worst revelation was yet to come. As human evacuation ships began leaving their systems, the aliens discovered how dependent they had become on human innovation. On the Zilithian homeworld, the agricultural systems that fed billions of people began to fail. The crops that grew in the crystal soil had been genetically modified by human scientists. Without human maintenance, the plants began to die. "We need the humans to come back," the Zilithian Minister of Agriculture told his government. "Without their farming techniques, our people will starve." The Hive Queen's worlds faced a different problem. The transportation networks that connected their planets had been designed and maintained by human engineers. As the humans left, the systems began to break down. "None of our engineers understand how the human transportation system works," reported a Hive Queen technician. "The programming is too complex. Without them, we cannot move goods between our worlds." Similar problems appeared everywhere. The aliens had allowed humans to become involved in their most critical systems. Now those systems were failing. and the aliens did not know how to fix them. The Drakmor Emperor called an emergency meeting of his generals. How did we let this happen? How did we become so dependent on one species? They were useful, admitted General Vextar. Their technology was better than ours. Their solutions were more efficient. We thought we were using them. We did not realize they were making themselves necessary. The ethereals, who prided themselves on their intelligence, were perhaps the most shocked of all. Their analysis showed that human involvement in galactic civilization was far deeper than anyone had realized. They have been planning this for generations, one ethereal told the Emergency Council. Every human colony was placed in a strategically important location. Every human trade route was designed to make alien economies dependent on it. Every human innovation was shared in a way that made aliens reliant on human expertise. And now they are all leaving at once, added another ethereal. The economic collapse will be immediate and severe. The final insult came when the aliens tried to access human databases and found them empty. Every piece of human knowledge, every scientific discovery, every technological blueprint had been erased or taken away. They even took their garbage, reported a Zilithian investigator. There is nothing left that could help us understand their technology. As the last human ships departed from alien space, the galaxy began to realize what it had lost. The species they had tried to control had been far more important than they had ever imagined. And now they were gone, leaving behind a civilization that no longer knew how to function without them. 6 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Federation, and the galaxy was dying. Admiral Paul Grant stood on the bridge of the UES Independence, the largest ship in human space. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see thousands of other vessels, cargo ships, passenger liners, military escorts, and research vessels. The entire human fleet stretched out before him like a metal river flowing between the stars. "Admiral," called out Captain Nina Ross from the navigation station, "all ships report ready for the final jump. 412 million humans accounted for. No one left behind." Paul nodded slowly. It had taken 6 months to gather every human from across the galaxy. Some had come willingly, excited about the adventure of exploring a new galaxy. Others had been reluctant to leave homes they had known for generations. But in the end, they all came. The aliens had made it clear that there was no place for humanity in the Milky Way. "What's the status of the old colonies?" Paul asked. Captain Ross checked her reports. "All human settlements have been evacuated and sterilized, terraforming equipment destroyed, infrastructure demolished. We left nothing useful behind." Dr. Ellen Hayes, the fleet's chief scientist, looked up from her datapad. "The aliens are still trying to reverse engineer our technology. They've had 6 months, and they still can't make any of it work." Paul was not surprised. Human technology had been designed with hidden safeguards and encrypted systems. Without the proper codes and knowledge, alien scientists could study human devices for 100 years and learn nothing useful. The communication system crackled to life. It was a message from the Zilithian Chancellor, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Humans," the crystal being's voice said, "we have reconsidered our position. The Galactic Federation is prepared to offer you a new agreement. You may keep your colonies. You may expand as you wish. We will not interfere with your population growth. Please return to your worlds. The galaxy needs you." Paul almost laughed. 6 months ago, the aliens had threatened to destroy humanity. Now they were begging humans to come back. The galaxy was collapsing without human innovation and expertise. "Should we respond?" asked Captain Ross. "No point," Paul replied. "They made their choice. Now they have to live with it." The truth was that the Galactic Federation was falling apart. Without human trade routes, Alien economies had crashed. Without human technology, critical systems were failing across dozens of worlds. Without human expertise, problems that had been easily solved now seemed impossible. The Hive Queens. Worlds were starving because their food distribution system had been designed by human logisticians. The Drakmor Empire was facing civil war because their communication networks had depended on human-built relay stations. The Ethereals, despite their vast intelligence, could not figure out how to maintain the power grids that humans had installed on their gas giant homes. Admiral, called Lieutenant Tom Brady from the sensor station, we're receiving distress signals from 17 different alien governments. They're requesting humanitarian aid. Paul shook his head. Not our problem anymore. The irony was not lost on him. The aliens had seen humanity as a threat because humans were too successful, too adaptable, too innovative. Now they realized that those same qualities had made them indispensable to galactic civilization. Dr. Hayes pulled up a holographic display showing the Andromeda Galaxy. The advanced scouts have identified over 3,000 suitable worlds for colonization. No intelligent life detected. We can build our civilization exactly as we want it, with no interference. Paul studied the star map. Andromeda was larger, and the Milky Way, with more stars and more planets. Humanity would have room to grow for thousands of years without overcrowding. What about the indigenous life forms? Asked Captain Ross. Are there any species we need to worry about? Plenty. Of animals and plants, Dr. Hayes replied, but nothing sapient. We'll be careful not to disrupt the natural ecosystems, but we won't have to deal with alien politics or territorial disputes. Behind them, Jake Morrison entered the bridge. The former ambassador looked older now, but there was a peace in his eyes that had not been there during his final days in the Galactic Federation. Lisa Grant and Tony Rivera walked with him, still serving as his advisors, even though there were no more aliens to negotiate with. Admiral, Jake said, we're receiving messages from individual alien colonies asking if they can join us in Andromeda. Paul raised an eyebrow. Really? Which ones? Mostly smaller species that were oppressed by the major powers, Lisa explained. The aquatic dwellers from the water worlds. The silicon-based miners from the asteroid belts. The energy beings from the plasma storms. They say they were never really part of the Federation anyway. Tony added, they promised to follow human leadership and contribute to our new society. They're tired of being bullied by the big alien empires. Paul considered this. What do you think, Jake? Can we trust them? Jake was quiet for a moment. Some of them, maybe. The species that approached us were never part of the conspiracy against humanity. They were victims too. But we'll need to be very careful about who we accept. The communication system activated again. This time, it was the Drakmor Emperor himself. Admiral Grant, the metal dragon's voice boomed across space. I am prepared to offer you anything you want. Technology, resources, entire star systems. Name your price for humanity's return. Paul walked to the communication console and opened a channel. Emperor, 6 months ago you threatened to destroy every human in the galaxy. Now you want us back. What changed? We made an error in judgment, the Emperor admitted. We underestimated humanity's importance to galactic stability. Without your people, our civilization is collapsing. That's not our problem, Paul replied coldly. You made your choice when you issued that ultimatum. Now live with the consequences. He cut the transmission. Around the bridge, the human crew smiled grimly. For too long, humanity had been treated as junior partners in galactic civilization. Now the aliens were learning what they had really lost. Captain Nina Ross approached with a datapad. Admiral, the final survey reports are in. The advance fleet has established supply depots along our route to Andromeda. We can make the journey in 3 jumps with full supplies. Paul nodded. Excellent. Signal all ships. Prepare for jump sequence Alpha. Across the fleet, thousands of ships powered up their faster-than-light drives. The technology was human-made, more advanced than anything the aliens possessed. It would carry them across the void between galaxies in a matter of days rather than years. All ships report ready, announced Lieutenant Brady. Paul took one last look at the Milky Way galaxy on his display screen. Somewhere in that spiral of stars, alien civilizations were struggling to survive without human help. Their economies were failing. Their technologies were breaking down. Their people were suffering, but that was their choice. They had decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist as equals. Now they would learn to exist without humanity entirely. Begin jump sequence, Paul ordered. The space around the human fleet began to shimmer and bend. One by one, the ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying the entirety of human civilization toward a new home among the stars of Andromeda Dot in the observation deck of the Independence. 8-year-old Lucy Chun pressed her face against the viewing window and watched the Milky Way galaxy shrink behind them. Mom, she asked her mother, Dr. Sarah Chun, why did we have to leave? Sarah knelt down next to her daughter and pointed toward the growing light of Andromeda ahead of them. Because some cages are too small for eagles, sweetheart. We're going to find where we truly belong. Lucy nodded solemnly. Will the aliens be okay without us? Sarah looked back at the fading galaxy behind them. They'll learn to take care of themselves. And maybe someday, when they're wiser and less afraid, we might meet again as true friends instead of master and servant. The last human ship jumped into hyperspace, leaving the Milky Way galaxy forever. Behind them, alien civilizations struggled. In the ruins of a galactic order that had depended entirely on the species they had tried to destroy Dot in the empty space where the human fleet had been, only silence remained. The galaxy was finally free of the human threat, just as the aliens had wanted. They were also free of human innovation, human adaptability, human cooperation, and human hope. Dot, as the years passed, some alien historians would write that the Galactic Federation had won a great victory by driving out the dangerous humans. Others would write that it had been the greatest mistake in galactic history. But in the Andromeda Galaxy, humanity thrived. Free from alien interference and alien fear, they built a civilization greater than anything they had achieved in the Milky Way. They terraformed worlds, explored new frontiers, and created technologies that would have seemed like magic to their former alien neighbors. Dot, and sometimes, on quiet nights, human children would look up at the stars and ask about the galaxy far away where their grandparents had once lived. Their parents would tell them stories of crystal beings and metal dragons, of hive minds and energy clouds, and of the day when humanity chose freedom over security and hope over fear. The aliens had been right about one thing: humanity was dangerous, but not in the way they had imagined. Humanity was dangerous because they refused to accept limits, refused to bow down, and refused to be in it.